Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Worcester District Medical Society's cable access TV show entitled Health Matters, and it does matter. And we try to take on some of the more interesting, controversial, hot topics in medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Hirsh. I'm also the medical director for the Division of Public Health for the City of Worcester. And today we have a topic that I wish I wouldn't have to talk about as much as I do. I talk about it a lot. It's about gun violence. And unfortunately, we have seen an upsurge of gun violence here in the city of Worcester. And we have a very, very learned and experienced panel in this subject to talk to today. So I'm very excited to introduce them to you. So I'm actually going to have Dr. Peter McConarty, who is really the founder of this feast. He's the gentleman that found these two other wonderful panelists, introduce his colleagues, and then we will get going with some questions and answers, and hopefully touch on some of the things that you might be concerned about hearing about some of the violent episodes that we've seen in the last few months here in Worcester. Peter?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. My name is Peter McConarty. I'm a family doctor, retired. I am active in the effort to reduce harm violence. We talk about eliminating gun violence. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to eliminate gun violence. However, we can reduce the amount of harm done in our community. And as one of the ways that I'm trying to contribute to less harm being done is with Everytown USA. And that's why I'm wearing this t-shirt, Everytown Survivor Network. This is an organization through a national organization known as Everytown USA, founded after the Sandy Hook massacres at the elementary school. And this is an organization of people who have been affected by firearm violence. And I was shot at my work in San Francisco long ago, 1983. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how firearm violence is affecting our own community of Worcester. And to that end, I have asked two people who have been affected by gun violence here in Worcester to share with us their experiences and their thoughts on this epidemic. So this evening, Louise Burrell, who lives in Worcester and is founding, have you started that nonprofit yet?
Yes, we have.
Well, maybe we'll hear about that, huh? And Jose Perez, who is the pastor at Rock of Salvation Church on Main Street. So let's hear from Louise and what you have to say about this.
Oh, thank you so much, Peter. I'm so excited to be here to talk about gun violence. It has affected our community so much. It has affected my family dramatically in so many different ways. I'm going to start first with my very first story of how I was affected by gun violence. Me and my children, we lived on Illinois Street, and our neighbor was an Army vet from Japan, and he had post-traumatic stress syndrome, and I don't think he was diagnosed with it. And I lived there for 2 years alone before anyone moved in, and I would plant a garden in the backyard. So when they moved in, he wanted to plant a garden as well, and our yard was huge, so it was no problem. I just had a little space. And the next year, he decided he wanted to plant the whole yard. And I said, no, I just have this little space, and you have taken up the whole yard. He went in the house. His wife came out and said, "Get your kids and run. He's coming out with a gun." And he came out with a shotgun. I was shoving my children up the stairs. We were running, but we could hear the shots going off behind us. We get in the house. I had no phone. I just so happened to go to my window and lift it up, and my neighbor was on their porch looking to see where those shots was coming from, and I said to him, "Call 911." And he called the police, and the police came, and they removed the fella from the home, but he was able to come back. So that was my first episode with gun violence. And then I also have a nephew in 1998, Eddie Wheeler. His murder has not been solved. He was shot on coming out of Fester's on Millbury Street. And the city of Worcester has the Worcester, they did a show on him February the 12th of this year of the unsolved murders here in the city of Worcester. And the sad part about it is my sister has passed away. My mom has passed away. And they have not seen this murder get solved. We don't know who did this to my nephew.
How old was Eddie?
My nephew was 26. And, you know, we're aging quickly. His dad is aging quickly, and he's still looking for answers, you know. Then I also have my cousin here, and I have a little picture of him, Sidney Crow Jr., May 26, 2018. He was shot up Webster Square. And when he got shot, his friends was running with him, trying to help him. And, you know, he was left there. And again, you know, we have so many of these episodes that take place. Sidney was only 16. You know, we're losing our youth to gun violence for absolutely no reason. And then I also have my niece. She was robbed in 2010 in her car, and she was shot in the neck. Michelle Diaz. They were caught. They are serving their time in jail right now, but my niece is not here. So my family has suffered a lot of gun violence right here in the city of Worcester. And
Where is your niece?
her name was Michelle Diaz. She was shot here in the city of Worcester, 2010.
Did she die from her injuries?
She did die from her injuries.
Oh, my goodness.
She was shot in the neck, yes.
Oh.
So my family suffers a lot from gun violence, you know, especially the unsolved ones. And to see that children are allowed to get their hands on weapons, I don't understand it. Growing up here in the city of Worcester, it wasn't something that I had to worry about. I never had to worry about being shot in the streets, getting into a fight, and a weapon being pulled. You know, in my day, it was your weapons were your hands. And you won some and you lost some, but you lived to fight another day, you know?
Yeah.
And to see that these children today has not learned that lesson. You know, that's what your hands are for. If you need to use them in that way, you use your hands, you don't pick up a weapon, because once you pick up that weapon, that person does not come back. And your life as what it is over. So why risk your life being over for making just the worst decision in a minute's time?
You made so many good points on this, Ms. Burrell, because I think in the time of video games where you just get a new life at the end of the game and you can just keep playing all day long, people don't realize in real life you don't just get a new life. You have only one.
No,
And I think the consequences are minimized in that way so that young men feel that they ought to pack weapons when they go out. I know what a struggle it is. And, you know, I raised two kids. It wasn't the easiest thing to convince them to do what I wanted them to do when how they were dressing, where they were going, whatever. And who knows what happened once they left threshold. But I think there are a lot of families here where the parents and the grandparents, whoever the caretakers are, know that their young men are packing and they can't figure out how to stop that cycle. And I think that's really where most of the gun violence is happening. We are seeing, I have to say, an uptick in suicide as well, firearm suicide. And firearm suicide, the tragedy there is that it's 95% effective in completing the suicide. If you pick another mode of suicide other than the gun, you will find only about a 40 to 50% success rate in completing the suicide. But the firearm, you just don't miss, you know. And in the trauma center, I think we do really well now in taking care of firearm injury victims. That's a large part of why currently Worcester still has the lowest firearm fatality rate in the Commonwealth. But the number of shootings have gone up, and the number of non-fatal injuries have gone up, and they have a lasting impact. And that's why, you know, we wanted you guys to tell your stories here. I was wondering if we could hear from Pastor Perez about your experience.
I also want to just jump in on what she said. When I came to Worcester, we came here in the 60s from New York City, from Brooklyn, and via Puerto Rico. We grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and to Worcester in the 60s. And I mean, we left the doors open. You didn't close the doors, you know, and we were outside continuously playing, you know, either kickball, football, basketball. I mean, they had to call us in to come in and eat. I mean, today, you don't find any of these kids in the street. I mean, this is a society, I mean, times have changed. This is a society that's all technical, right? No social skills. No, not everything is technical. The video games are, I mean, they say there's no connection between video games and suicides or killings or everything else, but when you see so much violence on a continual basis, and what you're trying to do is kill, right? Eliminate someone else or something else. Or it has to do something to your psyche. Something has to go on. Anyways, I just want we grew up at a different time. This is a totally different era. But in May 8th of 2021, my son, Carlos Cruz, was shot to death at the Paco Lounge on Chandler Street in Worcester. And he was hit 4 times, and there was 10 shots. And he was a father of 5. He worked at UMass Medical. He started with cleaning, and then he moved to be a PCA. And the person was caught, and he was taken to trial. He got charged with manslaughter and was given 10 years. You know, the way, I mean, my children, you know, the whole family, the effect, I mean, there's something about, and you hear it and you see it, you know, hear about it and everything else, about getting a call early in the morning from one of your kids, or from someone calling you and telling you that your son is fighting for his life at UMass Medical, right? And then he's gone. I mean, when you have to go through that, and when you have to bury one of your own kids, it's just not, we shouldn't be burying our kids. And I think that, and I mean, the tragedy is just not with my family. It's also, you know, I was in court, and you can see you can see the other family that had nothing to do with of the shooter, and you can see the pain that they're going through. Yeah, and it's just something that continues all the way around, and it's just, you know, I don't know I don't know if we can, you know, get some, I mean, you can get readings on earthquakes and you can get readings on different things, but we need to get a pulse on what the anger is in our communities, what the anger is, and across all communities. I mean, the hatred, the anger, and the fear, because there's a fear that somehow that people need to have a gun. People need to have a weapon. People need to have something to protect themselves. They fear everything and everyone. It's unbelievable. And I wish I could say it was Worcester, but this is a nation thing. And there's people out there that package fear and they sell it and they put it out there. And they continuously put it out there. Look, this is going to happen to you. These people are going to come and do this to you. And it's bombarded through the media on a constant.
Calling Mexican immigrants the southern border rapists and murderers. I mean,
they're coming to get you.
They're mostly young families, right? Mothers and their kids. They're not carrying fentanyl.
Disproportionately.
They're not carrying guns. But we've got enough guns now in the city of Worcester to have constant warfare and constant fear for our families and for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Of not just having an argument, but having an argument that ends up with somebody being murdered, killed. And if you use something other than a gun, chances are you survive. As you said, Louise, if you're using your hands, chances are that it's nasty and it's loud and people get hurt, but they get hurt with bruises, not with guns in their, not with a bullet in their chest.
So violence is something that our society is being peddled all through, through cartoons. It's being peddled, through video games. We need to find a way to control this. This needs to stop somehow. And then say that there's no correlation, that we don't know what the effect is. We see it every day. And then you come into our demographics and people in our community that have no jobs, that are stricken by everything. Well, crime becomes attractive. Crime is very attractive. And what does crime tell you to do? You better have some respect, right? You better not do this or that, because we know, I mean, our demographics didn't start the crime wave, right? I mean, we have all kinds of syndicates, right? Whether they're Irish, Italian, or whatever. I mean, we didn't start this, right? But it becomes very attractive when you have no income, when there's poverty and everything else, right? People always looking for a way out of everything, and sometimes they take the easy way out. They take and this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this, the drugs. I mean, drugs, the money that you can make, selling drugs. It's incredible. It's incredible. The money that's out there.
And if you're going to be dealing drugs or you're going to be buying drugs, you got to know that someone in that immediate area has a firearm.
Almost everybody does.
And one of the things that you referred, Louise, to the fear of the kids, that they need to be armed. Well, why do they need to be armed? They need to be armed because the person on the other side, they have reason to think, has a firearm. So our children and our neighbors are buying firearms to protect themselves from the other people with the firearms. And it becomes, I think it becomes a matter of shoot first, ask later. Because otherwise they'll shoot you and ask later. And it's a matter of survival.
I think one of the biggest issues we have here with gun violence here in our city is people are claiming something that is not theirs. This is my block, this is my street. The first question I ask is, what do you own on that block to claim it to be yours? Do you own a house on it? Do you have a store on it? You know, what is it about that block that you are claiming?
Do you have a
that
10-year-old
is
on it?
yours? Exactly.
Well, I just want to speak a little about that because I experienced this when I lived in New York. Okay, and when I lived in New York, it became the same thing. It was the Jets against this group and that group, and every group had their own turf. It was some kind of you know, this is my turf because this is my culture, my groups are brought up, right? So we see this. We saw this, and it hasn't changed, right? This is you know, the black community is in one area, the Hispanic is in one area, the Jewish community is in another area, and this is you know, this has to stop somehow, right? And then you know, well, the Bible teaches me that we're part of a human race. It doesn't say white race, black race. We created all these divisions ourselves, okay? And this is something that we structurally, and we, for instance, right, you build a bridge and you got to cross it because it was built that way. I mean, this is the way you got to go, right? And this is what's happening, right? We built this a long time ago, and we continue going through the same. We're saying, what's going on? Well, we got to stop. This bridge needs to be torn down and rebuilt because we're all brothers and sisters. We all bleed, and we got to stop this. And if it doesn't become race, it becomes economics, right? We built all these inroads. The thing is, I'm better than you, and it needs to stop. And we need to go to the root causes because we can continue putting Band-Aids on these things. We're not going to get anywhere. We'll be having this discussion. I was, you know, in New York. I mean, I couldn't go through the Italian neighborhood unless I had some friends. I couldn't go through. They couldn't come through our thing. And it was, you know, and this hasn't changed. You ask somebody, where's the black neighborhood? They'll tell you. Where's the Hispanic neighborhood? They'll tell you. Where's the Jewish neighborhood? They'll tell you. Right? I'm just, you know, that's the way we're grouped. That's the way we're built, and it has to stop. And we need to stop paying attention to these, you know, to this problem. This problem, because if not,
I was going to say, you know, those same divisions exist in other countries.
yes.
This is not a much more violent country than France or Spain or Finland. The difference is that when Americans get upset, they pull a gun. And as Michael was saying, you know, if you're going to commit suicide, 95% chance if you use a gun, you're going to be dead. 40% chance if you try to poison yourself, you try to hang yourself, you try to jump off a bridge, chances are you survive. And that's one of the underlying, you know, as you address the root causes, that's going to take a long time. It took a long time to get as much hate as we experience, as much distrust of people who look or speak differently than we speak. In the meantime, the reason that we've got such an epidemic of firearm-related death, both suicides, 2/3 suicides, 1/3 homicides, is because when people act on their momentary rage, they have lethal means in their hand. And that's what happened with your son. You know, he was outside a club on Chandler Street. No gun, he's still here. Gun, he's not here.
One of the things that I keep hearing is about our Constitution, that we have to carry guns and have guns. I think that in the UK and other things, they eliminated guns altogether. I just don't see that happening here that quickly or whatever. But, I mean, that's something we should be looking at, right? That's something we should be looking at. And about suicide, I mean, again, I just want to go back to I've spoken to some kids, and I've spoken to some because of the economics and our demographics, and I'm sure in low income, and when I say in low income, I'm talking about black, white, because we're all in this. I mean, I'll say this: more white people in the community that are poor than mine and your demographics, because they're a majority. Okay, and just look in the streets, see who's out in the corners asking for money and bending. white young folks. Okay, now you take a look at these issues, right? You take a look at it, and you find that people that are working. When I was growing up, my mom was home. My father was working. Now you got both parents working, or you got single family, they're working. There's no one taking care of that kid at home. There's no one there. When they go through problems, and kids go through problems, because they come to me, they were with a boyfriend, girlfriend, they break up. That's very traumatic to a lot of these kids. Who can talk them through that? A lot of them, with whatever, it's easy for them to want to take their lives. They want to take their lives because they broke up and they think this is the end of their life. And there's no one there to talk them through that moment that they're going through that situation that they're going through. Some kids are making pacts they took poison, that the girl, Romeo and Juliet, stuff, that kind of stuff. I mean, they're getting this stuff from TV and stuff. They have a whole different impression more from social media or movies and everything, or what love is, right?
And I think that's why education is one of the biggest keys. We need to educate our children on guns. We need to educate our children on gun violence. We need to educate our children on suicide. Mental health is real.
So Louise, you have that's one of the reasons that we tried to cover a lot in our Worcester District Medical Society, Worcester Medicine magazine, and this is available online at www.wdms.org. It's got a very wide variety of opinions in here. We've got NRA gun safety instructors, we've got police officers, we've got scientists, social scientists, we've got doctors, we've got medical students. But I think you're absolutely right. We have to carry that information to the very, very junior levels in education. I'm sorry, we are really touching on so many great issues, and I can't get into enough depth because you guys are wonderful guests. But I want to certainly invite the three of you back, and we can do a part two. But in the meantime, I just want to urge the folks that are listening out there to inform themselves about the different gun violence laws that have been passed. Massachusetts has the most strict gun violence laws in the country now, and we do have the lowest incidence of firearm fatality. But in certain neighborhoods and in certain parts of Worcester, you wouldn't know it. That's what we have to work on. Thank you very much, Reverend Perez and Ms. Burrell and Dr. McConarty for a really interesting session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.